Welcome to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, we talk about the 10 most stylish gangster movies. Hollywood loves gangsters for their glitz, flash, devilish charm, and admittedly, sometimes stylish yet over-the-top looks.
Say hello to my little friend!
The genre really rose to prominence in the 1920s when the whole Prohibition era definitely had an impact on it, along with Vitaphone, which allowed for sound in movies. The sound of Tommy guns made for infamous larger-than-life storylines, and along with the anti-Italian sentiment, movies like Little Caesar, Doorway to Hell, or Scarface became popular. Hollywood stars like Edward G. Robinson or Humphrey Bogart became popular through gangster movies. Of course, that's also true for James Cagney or George Raft. The genre has stood the test of time and has led to masterpieces from Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, or Brian De Palma. Big-time gangsters, both in movies and in real life, were in particular about their appearance. Al Capone, Bugsy Siegel, and Lucky Luciano were all known for the way they dressed. While their actions were not the least bit gentlemanly, they understood the power of their appearance and what it could make them look like in their community. To curate our list, we limited ourselves to one film per director. We didn't look at the acting at all. So without further ado, here's our top 10 list of gangster movies. If you disagree with it, you can keep your change, you filthy animal.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
We kick off the list with our number 10, Bonnie and Clyde from 1967. Starring Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway, and Gene Hackman, this movie got 2 Oscars. Its graphic violence paired with a less structured plot shocked moviegoers at the time. It basically depicted the 1930s era of the rural Midwest and their take on the golden age of menswear. It really showcases how men going through this huge economic crisis, and even when doing blue-collar dirty work, still paid a lot of attention to their appearance. In the film, you see a few slick suits worn by Beatty and Hackman, but also more casual workwear that was still classic, worn by Hackman and Pollard. Of course, we can debate how popular leather jackets and jeans were at the time. We placed lower on the list because they get some details wrong, such as wearing a belt with a 3-piece suit and a vest. It also features some looks you don't repeat today, including odd suit separate combinations. Though admittedly, it was probably done on purpose to highlight the difficulties people were going through at the time when they couldn't afford a proper suit and just had to make do with what they had. As a true menswear aficionado, you will notice the 1960s influences on what is supposed to be 1930s clothing. As you know, the 30s had shorter and wider lapels compared to the 60s where they were a little narrower. To learn more about suits and the different changes through the decades, check out this video here. Number 9 is Scarface. We chose to go with the 1932 version and not with the 83 version because that admittedly had some Miami Vice vibes and they're just not as classic anymore as the true original movie. Starring Paul Muni in front of the camera, you had Howard Hawks and Howard Hughes behind the camera. The storyline of the film was loosely inspired by Al Capone, and the film really shocked the Hays Codes Board and had to be cut and censored numerous times before it was finally released to the public. Everything about this movie is excessive, not just the violence, but also the plaits, the stripes, and even the diamond weave pattern suits that you can see in this movie. Of course, you also had fedoras tilted slightly sideways, you had tie stick pins, bold stripes on shirts paired with patterned suit jackets. Or just look at this checked suit with a fine checked shirt and nonchalantly put in pocket square. Of course, you can also see the Tommy gun and people in black tie with pocket square boutonnieres and hats shooting up a bowling alley. Overall, you probably want to tone down their style, but it is a great example of having patterns of different scale combined. By the way, if you want to learn how to match patterns in menswear so you always look the part, check out this video here. One of the reasons we have it lower on the list is the fact that it's a black and white movie, so it's hard to imagine what it would actually look like in color. For the same reason we omitted movies like Little Caesar or Angels with Dirty Faces. Number 8 is American Gangster from 2007. Denzel Washington plays Frank Lucas and his rise to the organized crime in New York. A key component of Lucas's character is his very traditional old-world business sense and drive for respectability. It's taught to him by Harlem mobster boss Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. This also translates into his clothes. He always wears cufflinks, has bold dress shirts, sometimes with a taupe suit or a double-breasted suit. Note his lapels are typically peaked and have this kind of touts lapel look where the gorge line points straight out to the sides. While most of the other male characters don't live up to Frank's style standards in the movie, it's worth looking at the ethos of how important it is to portray yourself in a certain way. You can take that in real life and just leave all the stuff from the movie behind. The irony of the theme is that when Lucas breaks that code himself by wearing chinchilla fur, it is the start of his decline. While you can pick up many interesting details, such as the slanted pockets, including a ticket pocket on a double-breasted suit, or the aforementioned touts lapels, there are also real issues. For example, look at a tie knot and how it's way too big for this kind of a shirt collar spread. That's definitely not a hallmark of a well-dressed gentleman. Number 7 is Road to Perdition from 2002, starring Tom Hanks. It's about a Depression-era mob enforcer who got framed by the son of a mob boss and now has to clear his name. It also stars Daniel Craig and Paul Newman, and it's in fact one of his last on-screen performances. The film showcases a number of different styles within the golden era. It goes from Hanks's everyman style to Stanley Tucci's dandified suits. Paul Newman's donning luxe and somber three-piece suits, and Jude Law also has a very unique style, including bowler hats. The characters' personalities are expertly showcased through their wardrobe. Pay closer attention to Newman and Tucci in this movie because they are the clothes horses and they coordinate their pocket watch with their patterned suits and the colors. Upon closer inspection though, you can see details don't add up. For example, the bowler hat of Jude Law is actually a modern one, not a vintage one. How do we know that? It's actually the brimmed curl. To learn more about bowler hats and what a real vintage brimmed curl looks like, check out this video guide here. Number 6 is Casino from 1995. We could have put Scorsese's Goodfellas in this spot as well, but we decided on Casino because it features a lot of different outfits, it's bolder, and it fits the scene of that town. Starring Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Sharon Stone, it loosely follows the story of the mob's racket with the Stardust Casino in the 1970s. De Niro's character, Ace Rothstein, steals the show here with over 40 different outfits. The true eccentric Vegas suits with sport coats in pastel colors and pinks. But you can also find orange and yellow. And even if he wears blue, it's a bold look. Just look at this color-coordinated pocket square shirt and tie. Definitely not something we'd recommend you wear. Nevertheless, some of the color coordinations are interesting and bolder, and I think you can utilize that in your outfits. For example, yellow dress shirts are quite underrated. Though I'd argue if you go that route, don't wear a matching pocket square in the same color. That's definitely a 1970s approach that is not a hallmark of a well-dressed gentleman. Pesci is also a good example of how you can use clothes to make yourself look taller when you're a man of modest height. It definitely brings to life the unique culture around Las Vegas. Just make sure you avoid the holes dug up in the desert on the way there. Number 5 is Get Carter from 1971, which is a British production. It really is the polar opposite to Casino because the outfits are much more muted and modest. Michael Caine plays the gangster Jack Carter, who is out for revenge because his brother was killed in cold blood. Despite the gritty subject matter, Carter's style is as somber as it gets. You see him wear quintessentially British three-piece suits with a dark tie and a dark trench coat. There are not as many costume changes, but the fit is spot on, the lapel is neither too narrow nor too wide, and you could wear this outfit pretty much today without looking like you're from the 70s, except maybe for the watch or the cufflinks, which definitely have a distinct 70s flavor. For a more timeless look, go with something like the monkey fist knot cufflinks from Fort Belvedere. They will stand the test of time and never look like they're out of style. Number 4 is The Godfather Part II from 1974. Curious about Part 1? Check out this in-depth analysis here. With 6 Oscar wins, it was the most successful sequel to date, and it shows the decline of Michael Corleone and the rise of young Vito Corleone. Clothes-wise, the interesting part is that it spans several decades of menswear. The characters you should probably pay closest attention to are Vito, Michael, and Tom Hagen. Of course, there are also other characters like Don Fanucci wearing the white three-piece suit with a matching hat, socks, and slippers. His tie has a stick pin, the shirt is white, he has a little pinky ring and a gold tooth, and on his left lapel you see this like black strip, which is a nod to his nickname of the Black Hand. Also take a look at Michael's suits, which vary in the shades of grey. I particularly like his three-piece suit, which is very somber and classic. Also, I really like Vito's brown striped suit, which is distinctly more vintage. Note the much shorter lapels, which are quite wide and have that nice round cut belly. Also, if you look at the vest, it's rather high cut, so you only see a very tiny bit of the tie knot, but not much tie exposed otherwise. That was something you wore at the time to just protect your shirts more and to keep warmer. Not a style you'd see today anymore. Hagen, on the other hand, has a style on its own. He's the attorney, but he wears things like a seersucker suit with a dark tie, for example. There definitely is some historical and fit inaccuracies, just like we saw them in the first part. Nevertheless, there's a lot to admire in this movie, and I hope you just don't tell Michael about it.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
Number 3 is Once Upon a Time in America from 1984. Much like The Godfather 2, the story plot spans several decades, so you see a bunch of different outfits, and the character and their development is also highlighted through the clothes they wear. The film follows David Noodles Aronson from the early bootlegger era all the way into his late age in the 1960s. De Niro and Pesci are once again characters you should pay attention to. It even features nice black tie outfits. Note the detachable wing collar here with a nicely self-tied bow tie and a vest worn with a tuxedo jacket. Also, you can pay attention to the pocket styles, the belted backs, as well as the tie patterns. With a runtime of 4 hours, you should definitely walk away with some style inspiration. Number 2 is The Untouchables from 1987. Of course, you can't have a list of stylish gangster movies without Al Capone, and The Untouchables did a good job in our opinion. The movie follows Elliot Ness, played by Kevin Costner, trying to take down Al Capone, who is played by, yes, you guessed it, Robert De Niro. Sean Connery also won an Oscar for his role as Jim Malone. Not only does the movie a good job in recreating Capone's outfits, such as his famous trial suit, but it also highlights a number of other different styles from characters other than Capone himself. Elliot Ness has very traditional white-collar business suits, for example. On the other hand, Sean Connery has a bit more rustic clothing, which is really nice to see as a contrasting point, which again underlines their characters. Or you can see a bit of casual flair with brown suede jackets as worn by Andy Garcia. If you want to see the golden age of menswear on full display in color, this is your movie. Of course, just make sure you never bring a baseball bat to a black tie event. So we've done The Untouchables. What is our number 1 pick? Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, The Sting from 1973. While some might argue it's a bit of a stretch to put this movie in the gangster genre, we put it here because it's loosely in there and the clothes are just splendid. Starring Robert Redford, Paul Newman, and Robert Shaw, this movie won 7 Oscars, including the one for Best Costume Design, which went to Edith Head. The film takes a lighter tone in the 1930s and displays styles from all social classes. There's great detail in costuming, and you can find everything from tie stick pins, spats, spectators, tab collars, detachable collars, and so forth. It's worth noting that while filmed in 1973, it was set in 1936, and here and there you can see the 70s influence in this film. For example, the shirts and the tie prints are definitely bolder than what they probably would have been in the 1930s. They're more in line with the 70s. At the same time, you don't see gapping collars or other small errors in terms of fit that you usually see in Hollywood productions. In fact, a lot of the outfits were directly pulled from old-fashioned illustrations from the 30s. Just look at the gray peak lapel window pane suit from Paul Newman paired with a darker motif printed tie and a gently striped shirt. Next to the brown striped suit of Robert Redford paired with his bold 70s tie. I also like their great black tie ensembles. Note the cummerbunds and the shawl collar on Paul Newman's jacket, and the nice 30s peak lapel, which is more of a Touts lapel pointing out on Robert Redford. They both have cufflinks, they have shirt studs, and a nicely tied bow tie with detachable collars. As a regular, you already know that, but if you're new here, we have the world's most comprehensive guide on black tie on our website. And it's free, go check it out. Apart from Newman and Redford, also pay attention to the clothes of Harold Gold. Everything he wears is stunning, including the pearl tie stick pin and the real tall club collars. Make sure you save your money for the clothes you want to buy afterwards, and don't put it all on red.
$3 grand on the red, Jimmy.
22 black.
Tough luck, kid.
So I'm curious, what would your list look like? And more importantly, why? Let us know in the comments below. In today's video, I of course had to wear a 1930s gangster outfit. I'm starting with this really nice navy blue fur felt hat from Misa, and I had a vintage ribbon put on, so it works really well with my suit. It is a 30s inspired suit from Ralph Lauren Purple label that was made in England. It is really soft, has these nice wide lapels and a nice 6.2 double-breasted cut. It was in fact the first quality suit that I bought as a teenager on eBay years ago. My white dress shirt with French cuffs has a classic collar, and I'm wearing it with a silver collar clip that has ball ends, and it works well with my silver or white gold cufflinks. I chose lapis and silver from Fort Belvedere to pick up on the blue tones in the outfit. I'm pairing it with a white gold pinky ring and a blue star sapphire, which again picks up the tones of blue. Of course, I needed a white linen pocket square in a square fold, and I combined it with a vintage tie that has tones of blue and kind of magenta pink. My boutonniere is a Christmas rose in a pinkish red that picks up the color of the tie. It is handmade from 100% cotton velvet and really stunning in person. You can find it in our shop along with numerous other handmade boutonnieres. The shoes are a pair of gray suede and navy spectators with more of a 30s style from J. Fitzpatrick. The socks are navy and blue two-tone solid socks from Fort Belvedere, and you can find them in our shop here.